When it comes to city symbols, Decatur, Illinois has a beautiful one: the Transfer House. Though the Transfer House is now located in Central Park in Decatur, Illinois, a piece of land that was once given to the city by an early resident named Captain David Allen, it wasn't always at this location. The current Transfer House opened in February of 1896 and was originally located at the Old Town Square, also known as Lincoln Square, where North and South Main Streets intersect with East and West Main Streets. In the beginning, the building served as a transfer point for riders on the city's electric streetcar system, and later became the transfer point for the Illinois traction system in 1904, and the city bus lines in 1937. This iconic building was not the first transfer house in Decatur, however. Much of Decatur's growth in the 19th century was due to railroads. In 1854, the Great Western Railway Company and the Illinois Central Railway Company built tracks and began rail service through town. Due to its central location in the state, Decatur became the crossing point for numerous railroads, which gave Decatur businesses and manufacturers access to the entire country. Business boomed. For a time, there was competition among local businessmen as to where the official town square would be. Would it be at the Old Town Square, also known as Lincoln Square? Or would it be in the New Town Square further east, in the Central Park area? The Central Park area had gained some traction in that regard, but after a fire in 1871 destroyed the Revere House, it would not be rebuilt, and one by one other stores either moved or went out of business. In April of 1892, the City Electric Railway Company finished construction of the first transfer house on Lincoln Square. The cost of the building was $2,700 and was paid for by merchants and property owners adjacent to the square. To name just a few of the notable companies and individuals who contributed, there was the Electric Railway Company, Lynn and Scruggs, Henry Backrack, National Bank of Decatur, James Milliken and Company, Citizens National Bank, Orlando Powers, and John Ulrich. After the first transfer house had served the location for several years, the businessmen surrounding Lincoln Square decided to build a new and more elaborate structure. Construction began in 1895, and the new transfer house opened on February 21st of 1896. The cost of the new transfer house was just over $3,000. To draw visitors and attention to the new building, local businessmen hired the Opera House Orchestra to play music and offered free souvenirs and train rides. People were also given the opportunity to buy a group of 30 streetcar tickets for only $1. On opening night, 45,000 tickets were purchased. Soon, the location would become the focal point in Decatur. Decatur was also a central point to the Illinois traction system. This electric streetcar system ran its streetcars in Decatur and around the transfer house. These lines were part of larger routes that operated all over central Illinois. By 1913, Decatur saw 36 streetcars an hour passing through Lincoln Square. There were also 82 interurbans a day. In the 1930s, the transfer house would also be used as a transfer point for the city bus lines. The building continued to be of great use to the city and served as a gathering place for speeches, community events, and special occasions. The open-air bandstand of the building's roof and its central location made it a great place for community events and public gatherings. After Japan's emperor announced their surrender in World War II on August 14, 1945, local residents gathered around the transfer house and took to its roof to celebrate. Many prominent people gave speeches from the building, including 3 U.S. presidents, William Taft, Woodrow Wilson, and Theodore Roosevelt. Here's a photo of President William Taft and Millikan University President Albert Taylor in the back seat of a Chauncey Powers auto, leaving the Wabash Railroad Station to go to the transfer house to make a speech. Taft gave a 14-minute address promoting a reciprocity treaty with Canada. Over 10,000 people were in attendance. The famous General John J. Pershing gave a speech in February of 1922. Over the years, there have been many performances from the bandstand of the transfer house. One common performer was the Goodman Band. In 1905, the band was in need of new uniforms and put out a plea for help. The first local business to respond was the Mueller Manufacturing Company, hence the reason for their sign and logo to be placed on the transfer house for a period of time. And here's a photo of the Goodman Band dated 1906, so one might assume they are wearing their new uniforms in this photo. The transfer house maintained this location for almost 70 years, seeing a city grow, businesses boom, watching multiple generations enjoy it in sun or snow, and standing strong while watching other buildings suffer fires or be demolished. Over time, with the growing popularity of the automobile, trains and buses were less used. To facilitate the increased demand of automobile traffic, the Illinois Department of Transportation recommended moving the transfer house. In 1962, the Decatur City Council voted to move the transfer house from Lincoln Square. Not everyone was for the move, however. More than 100 citizens carrying petitions bearing 11,400 signatures voiced their opposition at a city council meeting in October of 1961. At one council meeting, a young man passed out a poem to all those in attendance. The poem was written by Owen T. McManus, and it was entitled "The Old Transfer House, a GI's Dream." One notable stanza went like this: "When I reach old Decatur, I'll shed my GI blouse, get down on my knees, and kiss the old transfer house." Some efforts were made to devise alternate routes to help the flow of traffic, but they proved unsuccessful. With a vote of 5-2, the City Council decided to move the transfer house, and on November 20th, 1962, the Berry Construction Company began the process of moving it to its new location on the east side of Central Park. Ironically, this is the same location that the competitors of the Lincoln Square businessmen tried to establish a new town square in the early 1890s. For a short period of time, the city bus lines continued using the transfer house in this new location, but eventually they stopped using it altogether. The transfer house is a sight to see. The architect was William W. Boyington. Boyington is most known for his many works in Chicago, many of which were destroyed in the Great Chicago Fire in 1871. One surviving structure that is still standing strong today is the Chicago Water Tower. Boyington also designed other famous buildings in the central Illinois area, including the current State Capitol building in Springfield. And in Decatur, the Milliken Bank, and the James Milliken Homestead. The transfer house has 8 sides in the shape of an octagon, with windows and doors on alternating sides. The octagonal shape offered increased floor-to-wall space and provided a bell-shaped roof with large overhang. The doors and windows are inside Romanesque Revival-influenced arches. The sides of the building are dressed in Bedford stone. Matching stone benches are attached to the building below the windows and seat a total of 44 people. On the west side of the roof is a ladder that gives access to the dome, cupola, and upper tip. Years prior, there was a large flagpole at the top. And though the roof has been a bright red for many years, it has also been green and silver at different times. In October of 2002, the transfer house was accepted to the National Register of Historic Places thanks to the great work of University of Illinois student Corey Wilmot. In an advanced historic preservation class, Corey was tasked with nominating a historic place for the NRHP. While most of his classmates chose a location in Champaign, Corey wanted a location that held personal significance. Being raised in Decatur, Corey finally decided on the transfer house. It was his hope that listing the building in the NRHP would contribute to its long-term preservation. The primary challenge in nominating the transfer house was its relocation from the original site, which typically disqualifies a structure from eligibility. However, since the building had been moved over 50 years prior and held such prominence in the city, it was still considered eligible. You can read his entire submission to the United States Department of the Interior by visiting the address on the screen. Over the years, the transfer house has had many uses, and one local entity has been dedicated to it for decades: the Decatur Area Convention and Visitors Bureau.
I'm Terry Hamill, Executive Director for the Decatur Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. The Convention and Visitors Bureau started in 1981, so it has a long longevity, of course. The transfer house has always been a large part of the Convention and Visitors Bureau story. We use the transfer house as our logo, as well as many other people in the community. So it is like the icon of the community. Therefore, it's something that we really like to promote and share with visitors as well as the community. The Visitor Center became very popular for a short time in the transfer house for weekends. And we had a lovely lady, Orv Graham's wife, Donna, who was our superstar, being the person to welcome guests to the community and share brochures and help people navigate things to do in our area. That lasted for a short period of time. It became less popular and therefore went away after a while. So then there was an organization who started up, I believe it was the Downtown Decatur Council, and they made this their home and offices. So therefore they had the restroom and offices, and they helped facilitate fun things to do and projects in the downtown area. That lasted for a few years, and then that became a part of the past, and therefore then the transfer house sat vacant for many, many, many years. In 2019, I decided that I wanted a project that would help maybe bring the transfer house back to life. So reaching out to community partners, which makes every person successful in their career, I take them to lunch one day and we went and talked about a dream that I had on how to make the transfer house come back to life and become a valuable part of the community. So after sharing the dream and many meetings and conversations and becoming a partner with the Community Foundation, who helped find a donor for the cost of the renovations, and the trades and labor organizations helping to come together to donate their time, we were able to transfer the transfer house into a venue for many events that are being held in the transfer house today. So my main goal was to be able to open the transfer house and have a nice open area for Santa. So this became Santa's new home every year for Christmas, to greet the children and have a safe place for them to come and visit and turn it into like this magical place for Christmas. After that, the building was so accessible with handicapped accessible restrooms, a large venue space with a blank canvas to be able to host Christmas parties, birthday parties. We've had a wedding, we've had a baby christening, we've had all types of events, private events, and if it's something that you would like to be interested in and you'd like to come and see the inside of the transfer house, just come to the Decatur Area Convention and Visitors Bureau and contact us. We'll be happy to give you a tour and all the information that you would need to possibly host an event in the transfer house.
The transfer house has been loved for generations, and for many, it is a true treasure. In 2001, when the city of Decatur attempted to change its logo to the image of a farm and rising sun, so many residents present and past voiced their opposition that within a few months after the change, the city returned the transfer house to its status as the official symbol and logo of Decatur. So today, the transfer house remains strong in the heart of Decatur. And as with any treasured landmark, as long as there is a community who cares about history and preservation, the transfer house will continue to live on for generations to come.